All right, what's happening, guys? So real quick, just want to talk a little bit about some of this Spider-Man Far From Home, the new Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, the new extended clip that we'd seen as well. Just a few of my thoughts on it. So, I mean, first thing when I first even heard about it, like Monday morning, I was on Instagram and JJ Myers had hit me up. And what's crazy, I was looking through the DMs and he was actually typing, like as I was, just on there, just kind of looking around, whatever. But when he hit me up, man, like, and for those of you who don't follow JJ Myers or are not really sure who he is or whatnot, I'm sure all of you have seen him already because he's the dude from Black Panther who got yoked up by M'Baku and pretty much thrown across the screen or whatever. But yeah, he had hit me up asking me if I'd seen the trailer, and my thing was like, when he just hit me up, I had another tab like just open on my laptop about to go see it. And it was like at the same time kind of happened. So it just all just hit me at one time. But what's wild, and as far as JJ, I met him through a friend of mine, Jefferson, who we used to work together. But Jefferson, you definitely need to check out too. Fight Scene Machine on Instagram has a bunch of crazy skits, crazy stunt choreography, because stunts is their thing. They do all of that, and they have a lot of crazy clips that they do on there, and it's just wild. So definitely check it out. And I got the links below in the description, so if you need to check that out. So just make it a little bit easier that way. But definitely follow both of those guys. But my thing with my thoughts of the introduction or the confirmation as well of the multiverse inside of the MCU, and just the whole meeting with Mysterio and Spider-Man, and getting, in the words that with him mentioning that this is the 616 universe. And he was from, I think it was the 833 universe. It was kind of like, okay, for one, it kind of threw me for a loop because we've talked about multiverses on so many scales, like throughout the comics, and how things react, either one off another, and how your 616 universe is your main continuity. Within any comics that deal with multiverses, between Marvel or DC, you have like your Prime Earth or your Earth Prime. And with those, like with Marvel, the 616 is like your main universe. And the 616 is like your main universe. This is where everything pretty much happens. This is the standard, and everything else branches off of that. So with the films, up to the point of Avengers Endgame, the films were designated your 999 universe up until that point. And so from us hearing in Spider-Man Far From Home, and Mysterio giving the word that the universe is now your 616 universe, I feel like this kind of goes into a bit of the uproar and what you guys have mentioned in some of, not just the comments here on other videos, but also on Instagram and even on Twitter. It's like, and even on Reddit, it's like the thing with Mysterio is like, is he lying about all this? My thing is, I truly believe that with him, there's a bit of a lot of truths, but it's being enough truths told to where the true motive and the true lie that he has behind it, we'll find out eventually. And I feel like for the most part, most people kind of have that assumption going into it, because the whole idea of the 616 universe, I don't think that they're gonna. And this is all speculation, 100%. I have no clue of how they're really doing this whatsoever. I don't have no inside source or anything like that. But the thing is, I don't think that they'll take a route to where they'll take the universe that they have established and more so change its designation. It may, but usually when they do that, they do a designation number that's not already given to another established universe. So I mean, with that, that's one of the things I really want to see cleared up within Spider-Man Far From Home, because for me, there's a lot of question marks flying there, because it's like, okay, we already got a 616 universe, and we already got an 833 universe, but if you take this into the films, which are, your one with the 5 nines, that universe already established, it's like, it can get kind of confusing after that point. And new timelines are created, much like how they handle it in Avengers Endgame, that there's a point to where, time travel can cause these things to happen and create new timelines. I feel like the Ancient One, she explained it well in Avengers Endgame, And that's one of those things that the Hulk also explained it. The first time I saw it and the Hulk explained it, I didn't get it. It flew in my head. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. But when the Ancient One drew the line, I'm a visual learner, so when she drew the line and said, take it out and like that, I'm like, okay, it's just like in the comics. All right, so, but with it being that way and that being possible, it could be with the conclusion of Spider-Man Far From Home that we see that this really is a alternate timeline, truly. And we'll just have to see where that goes. Because the thing with that is, with the creation of the newer timeline, we just need, I really need, personally, my request is that Spider-Man Far From Home really draws a conclusion to say what's what and what exactly we're dealing with. But another thing too, with Nick Fury also mentioning, he's more than a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like, you've been to space, bro. Like, I like how they threw that in there. But with him also mentioning that it was caused by the snap, and we don't know which snap it was, whether it was the snap that Thanos did or the snap that Tony did. One of the main things that stuck out to me was consequence. And what I tweeted yesterday I mentioned earlier yesterday about incursions and things like that. Like, I feel like those are coming in the future. I definitely still feel like that can be a thing. And like I mentioned in my review of Avengers Endgame, I feel like that's gonna be like way off towards, if anything, possibly like your latter end of phase 5 or phase 6 or something like that. But I feel like the incursions, which were a product of the repercussions of time travel, like, to me in the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, it's like the words of repercussions and consequences just kept going off in my mind. Like, even seeing this being a residual of the snap, to where I believe it was the first snap, because if Tony's snap was, bringing everybody back and kind of fixing what the first snap had did, is, probability it would have fixed the repercussions that the first snap had caused as well. But with it, also happening just to bring the people back, it's more than likely that both of these events and possibly the time travel in addition to that may have caused rifts in the timeline and caused these rifts in the dimensions, which, are merging universes as well. But overall, like, just that concept, man, I just feel like it is a great gateway to introduce a number of characters. But I don't want Marvel to go overkill with that. I don't want them to be like, okay, this thing we make, this is the one loophole that's gonna bring everybody in from this other universe. I think it's more so, it's a good way to introduce some characters. To me, mainly, I think it's a great way to introduce probably like your Galactus and your Silver Surfer in a Guardians Volume 3 kind of tease of a way. But I don't want them to go overkill with it and say this is how we got every single mutant ever. I really think that those should really tie back to the gems and just kind of spread out your explanation. Definitely taking the time, like we talked about. I mentioned, Kevin Feige's comments of the other mutants and everything trickling in the films, but it's going to be over a course of time before we eventually see like your X-Men, your Fantastic Four. I like that slower method, but I don't want it all to just stem off, well, okay, the dimension opened up and all these guys just came in. You know what I'm saying? I think that should be saved more so for your Secret Wars. I think that's a better way to do that. Like much later on when you have like your Secret Wars event. And like your bigger events that do happen, they can allude to Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War. But I just don't really want those two films, as big as they are, to be the scapegoat for every single plot point from here going forward. I just don't want that. I don't want that, because there's so many other things to pull from to have these stories, have weight or have new things introduced, and not just say that everything came from this one particular thing. I think there's different ways to mix it up, and I do feel like they have a number of ways set up to even with mixing it up, to say, okay, like the earthquake in Wakanda, or the underwater earthquake near Wakanda, saying that could be possibly Atlantis or whatever, and that can introduce Namor, and the residual of the snap, it opened dimensions, which introduced Mysterio. As long as they spread it out and just don't hit everything on one mark and just have that be the thing. That's more so what I'm saying. So I'm cool with that. Just don't be too on the nose on one point thing and just have that to be it. But yeah, man, I was also thinking as well too, because when Mysterio mentioning that, you know, he wished he had someone like Peter from where he's from, you know, in the 833 universe, you definitely had your Spider-Man. You know, you had your Spider-Man UK. The whole ordeal with him traveling, you know, between, you know, different Earths and whatnot, and trying to get back to his, and running through complications, not being able to. I feel like there's possibly an instance where we'll see, at least I would hope, you know what I'm saying? This is just me, more speculation, and me just hoping, like, it would be nice to see a clip from that, or even him tell Peter at some point that, you know, we did have one kind of like you, but we don't have him anymore, such and such happened, which was really Mysterio getting rid of him. And then he comes across here and sees another Spider-Man, but with him having a hologram and showing Peter the Spider-Man from his Earth, and his name was like Billy Braddock or something like that, but showing him the other Peter, which is Tom Holland, and like the hologram or picture of him pointing, and then Tom points back at him, and we get the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man thing. I feel like Far From Home has an opportunity to do that, and even like the new costume that we've seen, and we've seen the tech on, you know, Peter's arm or whatnot. It would be nice to see something like, even if, and once again, just going off the wall here, but like the black costume that we seen in the leaked footage, like what if that was Spider-Man UK and not Peter in that costume? You know what I'm saying? So I think things like that would be a nice twist to it. But once again, it's one of them points where we really have no idea how this is gonna pan out. The only thing we really know is that Mysterio is a person of deception. Like, that is his whole shtick. He, you know, he's a visual effects guy. He uses that to manipulate different scenarios, and he's definitely doing some form of manipulation, dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and giving them this information or this intel that is mostly truth with a bit of lie in there. Because just like with films, the best films that have your practical effects with or the digital effects are visible because you hide them amongst the practical effects. And I feel like he's doing that with having a lot of truth and hiding the lies within that truth as well. But yeah, that's mainly my thoughts on it. I'm excited to see Spider-Man Far From Home, man. Like, I feel like with not ignoring the events that have come before, that they've really gonna do a good job with the movies coming after. But I mean, with Spider-Man Far From Home pretty much wrapping up your phase 3 going into phase 4 or whatnot, I think that it's gonna be one of those scenarios where it's like we're getting the groundwork for some of the shifts that are coming throughout phase 4 and beyond, which will have a ton of more characters coming in with explanations that tie into not just Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but tied deeper into the MCU and the previous 22 films that came before. And Spider-Man Far From Home is gonna be the first one to actually do that, and I'm excited about that. But I just wanted to holler at you guys real quick, just kind of share some of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I've been chopping it up with some of you guys on Twitter and on Instagram already, but let me know your thoughts down here, and we'll do it again in the next one. All right, later.